Hello, here we are again for Quantum Human Revelations. I'm just checking to make sure I'm actually live. And this week we've got the equinox. So I suppose we can tune in. Well, I've been tuning into the equinox energy all week, and the last few weeks that we've been discussing spirituality and the purpose of it kind of fits in with the equinox energy anyway. So we're going to discuss the ascension updates for this month and for what to expect for the equinox. But also we're going to carry on just to kind of complete the conversation about is our modern day spirituality and meeting our needs, and is bypassing on the rise, spiritual bypassing. I just wanted to finish that conversation off first before we moved on. So grab yourself a cup of tea and come and join us. I'm just going to get my chat all working. And as always, you know, these sessions are as much about the energy that I'm sharing with you as about the words. So just sit, and you don't even have to listen to the words, just let them sort of flood over you and let them awaken and act as keys to awaken parts of you and your quantum human contribution that you're here to make. But as a quantum human, the people I'm looking to reach are people who are ready to step into their spirituality, but in a way where they are practical and logical at the same time. So bringing the two together so that we can become quantum humans, basically, not just a healer, not just a very clever person, but bring them together and let's see what we can make when we have those two things switched on. And the conversation that we've had for the last couple of weeks kind of was a kind of test in a way, or a case study. You know, we noticed that we had an issue with spiritual bypassing on the increase, despite the amount of websites and videos and books that are now available, which is more. You know, 30 years ago, you didn't have a section in the bookshop that said spirituality section. You didn't have YouTube videos easily accessible, or the number of talks that you see now all online. All of these things we never had access to. You had to be really determined to find it. And it was all by word of mouth of good teachers handing on books and really connecting with each other. So now that we've got this more freedom of information flowing, how come spiritual bypassing is on the rise, and how come loneliness and depression and all these other things are getting worse? So that's kind of what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. So if you think about it, the first week I just posed the question. I tried not to lead it. I tried to just kind of throw a few thoughts into the bucket for you to think about. The second week, which was last week, I asked you then, why did we think that was happening? What was the reason? And it was interesting because some people said the personality was frightened of the soul. Some other people talked about energy attacks. And the thing is, each of us would have looked at that problem with different lens, with different eyes. So what I wanted to sort of summarize on that is that this separation that we have when we look at things can be our consciousness, which could be victim or abundance. It could be soul versus personality. So everything we're doing, if we really want to become a quantum human, we have to become deep thinking, but also very discerning about our own bias, I guess, towards what we're looking at and how we're processing it. And based on that, it's not just a negative thing that is your bias, it's also probably the lens that's really going to serve you through your work and what you're here to contribute, if that makes sense. So your bias is probably your specialty, if that makes sense. If we've watched any of the other videos, we talk about make your mess your message, then your bias might actually be your lens that you can see the problem through, which could be your expertise and what you're here to share with others. So I just wanted to say that before we moved on. So the second part was that I've been posing questions and trying to hold space for you guys to think in a much more critical thinking kind of way. So we all kind of highlighted what the problems were, but none of us really came up with a solution last time. So today I just wanted us to intend that whatever I'd said in the last two episodes, we're now going to kind of percolate through your body and start shifting you so that you can find your contribution to that problem. So how will you help with spiritual bypassing? How will your expertise help with spiritual bypassing? So on that note, I'm just going to say hello to everybody on Zoom that we're all settled in. And hello to everyone on YouTube. I think I can see the comments today, so I'm just checking to see. And we're coming up to an equinox this week, so we're going to be talking about that in a moment. So how we've all been feeling this week leading into this equinox. So Marta's saying she might doze off because she's feeling tired. Yeah, my house alarm's been going off for the last 2 nights, and not the alarm clock. And that thunderstorm last night that we had in the UK was really quite electric. The sky was lighting up. There was lightning bolts. I just saw a video of somebody's video of a lightning strike just down the road. So we had quite a big thunderstorm here last night. So it kind of shows that energy is kind of shifting and moving. So how do you notice when the energy starts shifting for you? How does that show up for you? Like I said, I'm trying to encourage you guys to start tuning into your own body rather than just listening to me and consuming what I say. I'm here to activate and to awaken in you parts of you that know the answers to these questions. So what are you feeling? If you were to sense into this equinox energy, what are you sensing? What are you feeling? What do you feel is coming through on this particular energy wave? Allowing for the fact that we kind of identified some biases when we talked about the spiritual bypassing last week. So allow for that in your interpretation of the energy that you're sensing too. So I tend to find that the energies match when I do an energy reading for each month, which we talked about, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, then that kind of covers the whole month. And when I tuned into the equinox, I was still getting let go. Yeah, so that's funny enough. Well done. Jenny's got releasing, letting go, raising vibration. Yeah, so that's pretty much what you can sense. And, sensing energy takes time. It takes bravery to be able to speak it out loud, but that's the energy that's coming through. And I guess, we were talking at the beginning of this month of pink granite because it had this ability to conduct electricity and sparks. Then the electrical storm yesterday is that kind of, I came up with animation. I don't know why, reanimating our bodies, like shocking us into another evolutional state. It's that kind of feeling, as well as we have to let go of some stuff for that process to continue. Now, some people have been saying it's a new timeline, but every time I check in, I'm not seeing it as a new timeline yet. I'm still feeling it as the same timeline that came in about, gosh, when did we do the timeline shift? About 3 months ago, was it? When we were moving our businesses onto a new timeline. Actually a whole story. We were looking at a timeline as a process and we were moving it completely. That was about 3 months ago, I think. Now, when people are talking about timelines, I guess, more and more people are noticing that timeline's there. So they're starting to talk about it now. But for me, the equinox energy is a balancing energy. It's really asking us to balance ourselves and to look at our lives through a balanced perspective, not the bias that we were talking about. So Jenny says she's too nervous to post that in case it go wrong. We've all got a bias. We've all got to see things differently. Post it because it all adds up to a bigger picture. That's why I'm trying to encourage everyone to post and share. Not because I necessarily want you to feel uncomfortable, but I do want you to feel that when you share, it kind of opens the doorways and lets more of it through. So until you start sharing and getting over that issue, you're not going to get the flow of insights that you have access to. So the balance that we spoke about for September was between the soul and personality. And I said that we needed to put the personality into rest mode so we can connect more to our insights. So connecting into those insights is speaking it, tuning into it, learning the voice of our soul, which really has been the conversation of this podcast since the beginning, where we talked about obeying your soul, how to listen to it, how to obey it. Everything that we've been doing has been preparing us basically for the equinox. So each of the episodes, when you listen to them, it's kind of like activating a part of you so that you can be ready to receive the energies of this equinox. So Marta's got time to pause and waiting before acting, because each of us is going to be in a different stage. So all of these answers are what you're sensing is right. And I'm actually body testing the answers that are coming in, and it's saying, yeah, that's exactly what it is for you guys. So don't be shy when you want to comment about what this energy is doing to you. So Charles is saying, ready to play like a happy child. I guess that's to do with the equinox energies, I hope, not the soul and personality conversation. So I'm glad, thank you, Charles, by the way, because I don't know I'm seeing comments until I see one pop up. So thank you for doing that. So if we can tune into these energies, then, you know, if we go back to spiritual bypassing, which we were talking about gosh, my timelines are all over the place, last week. If we go back to spiritual bypassing, we spoke about last week, then now that you're sensing these energies, what are you going to do about them? How are you going to integrate them into your life? So it's not just a mental understanding, that it becomes a embodied feeling, a new way of being, a new habit, a new spiritual practice. How are we going to do that bit? Do you guys have an idea of how you're going to take this energy and integrate it? Because just like with the timeline stuff and 5D and the fifth dimensional energies, everyone seems to be waiting as if you hold out your hands, it's going to land in your hands, and that's not how it works. It's there and it's making yourself known, but it also needs your body, your energy, your mindset to recalibrate in order for you to up level higher to reach it. And to upload it higher to reach it is your responsibility. You can't just sit there and say, oh yeah, 5D energy is coming in, so I must now be 5D. It's really about up leveling our frequency. And that's about letting go. Letting go of what doesn't serve us, really analyzing ourselves, digging into why we do what we do, like changing our habits, changing how we think. And all of these things is only we can do that for ourselves. I guide people through this, but I'm only as good as the person that's willing to do the work. If they're not willing to do the work, I can't do anything. I can only encourage a soul to feel safe, to encourage a personality to let go so that the soul can come through. But if that person isn't ready for that, then it's not going to happen. So I saw some comments coming in, which made me smile. Yeah, so Judy's saying it's okay to live differently to everyone else. Permission is not required. No, definitely not. So Jenny's saying that she's upgrading her energies using Dancing with Energy, because I've got a class on Thursday that we're going to do mindful movement and reprogramming exercises. And Marta's doing nurturing herself and feels the need for softness and rest. Yeah. So, you know, but if we don't share these things, then other people don't get to hear the wonderful wisdom that we all have on how we deal with energy updates. So that's what I kind of wanted to encourage when we do these sessions. So with this Equinox energy, this has kind of come through before. It had this kind of feeling of there's no such thing as good and bad, which we kind of know, but this felt a lot more formulated, if that can make sense. It wasn't such an airy concept. It felt like this was now like a new universal law on the planet. And then this soul and personality aspect that I touched on last week as well, like why did the human body evolve to have a personality which is blocking the soul? And when animals don't have that level of personality blocking them. So what was it about humans that made us move into that separation of ourselves, where we kind of split ourselves into personality and soul, and then battle it out between us two sides, I guess. And it feels like whatever the reason was for that evolution, it's gone now. So we can choose whether we want to be more soul focused and learn, because it's a new language, we have to learn and to upgrade how we listen to the voices. But also we can then retrain the personality, because with good or bad, it's never about getting rid of something or deleting it, because energy can't be deleted, it can only be reforged. So what we're talking about is retraining the personality to have a different role. And to do that, you really have to have a good sense of yourself to find out what that role is, to give them the new habits and behaviors that are going to support you on your contribution to the earth at this time. So with that good and bad and this personality and soul, it's almost like that separation that we as humans have created, because we know we've created all of this. We decided that there is good, there is bad, there is a soul that is battling with a personality. You know, we've decided all this. So for us to take that now and bring it back into balance, and it's that kind of maybe why people are saying a new timeline, because that's a new way of being. But that's down to us to step up and embrace and say, yes, that's me. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to break the boundaries and to reform myself as this one being with a personality that I love because it's helping me. It's giving me the warnings at the right time. It's not an overprotective parent anymore, versus the soul that is trying to get you to go bigger and play bigger. And for me, that's what's coming up for this equinox, is the final embedding of that new rule onto the earth. So if we think of ascension energies coming in, they have to come all the way down to the earth and to our physical bodies for us to be able to use them. And that's the process that's happening now. So what we've been doing in the group is a couple of exercises that I thought I'd share with you guys today. So the first one was to get an idea of timelines. If you were to draw a line, and at the bottom, or maybe not even the bottom, in the middle, put your date of birth. And then at the top, you put today's date. And then at the very bottom, just allow for that to be your past lives. And just write on the line, you can visualize this if you haven't got a pen handy. Just visualize it and just look at all the major events that occurred to you up until today, since you were born. Now, if you have an awareness of your past lives, then you might want to go back and put some of those things in your past life on the line below when you were born. Maybe you have memories of future stuff, so you might want to draw the line up further than now and put other things on there. But when you look at that list, it becomes the list of things that your personality learned to protect you from. So that line and all the events on there, some of them, I doubt, it'd be interesting. How many of you guys put something joyful that happened on the list, and how many put negative things that had impacted you? So if you think about that, and when you're drawing the line, let's see which way you kind of went on the easy or the hard stuff. Was it blocks or exciting moments? But when you look at that list, then everything below where we are now is what's shaping your present. Yeah, so Jenny mostly put blocks down. Interesting. But when you look below that line, then that's everything that's blocking you moving forward, effectively, yeah? And Marta put down all the stuff that was hard for her, yeah. Even if you didn't do the exercise on paper, you're already thinking about these things. It's like, oh yeah, that. And that's the funny thing with the memory. The memory is more likely to remember all the horrible things that happened to us than the good things. So when we pull out of our memory, we tend to pull back those negative aspects first. Now, if all of those are made your today, that's what made your present, then what are you doing today to create your future? And that's what the equinox energy is inviting us to choose. And that's kind of like a new timeline. Now I want you to draw another line alongside this line. And on this line, again, put your date of birth, put today's date, maybe the line goes above and below. But below that line, now I want you to put all the things, the opposite of what you put on the first one. When everything was wonderful, what would have happened instead of the hard thing? What would have happened instead of the block? And put that on this other line. So you've got two lines. One line is your current history, your birth date, your today, present, and then everything that happened in your life in between. And a little bit of past lives, if you guys have known that, below that, or a bit of future life, if you know what's going on there. And then the second line is the opposite, all the positive aspects that could have happened. Maybe you wrote a book, maybe you won an award, maybe you earned a lot of money, maybe you passed that exam or met that guy that you were looking for, whatever, put it all on the positive line. So effectively now you have two timelines, yeah? How does the energy feel on each of those concepts? So on the first one, so yeah, Marta says she loves this, it makes her smile. So when we talk about shifting timelines, that's what we're talking about. You've done nothing different. You haven't gone back and erased your past. You haven't changed anything physically, yet you've just changed your vibration to a new timeline just by doing this exercise. And you can already see that second one is much lighter and joyful, as Jenny said, perfect. And what you're doing when you've done that is you've already switched your vibration, your physical vibration onto a new timeline. Okay. So that just gives you an example of how a timeline can in fact affect you. Okay. So what we've been doing over the last few days is we've been creating a jar. At the end of every night, we look at who was driving our lives. Was it personality or was it soul? We've been asking questions like, how do we know what our personality sounds like? Because it's been with us for so long, it's become our friend, it's become a comfortable voice that we're used to listening to. And again, with the spiritual bypassing, we have to start learning what we don't know about ourselves. So we're trying to be really discerning about the voices by simply checking with our heart and body testing. Does this light me up or does this make me feel fear? And then we've been putting them into a jar. So we've been putting all of the personality talk into a jar. I just seen Marta and Jenny both saying they've just got a load of stuff in their jars. But out of that lot in that, were you surprised at the quantity of personality talk that you guys do to yourself every day without even knowing? Because that's why we've made it visual in a jar, so we could actually see how much of this negative talk was going in. And the reason we did this is because on Thursday, we're going to do a personality kind of reprogramming based on what they've put in their jars, and then based on this timeline concept, so we can start moving it. So when it comes to equinox energy, that's what I wanted us to understand, is that we choose now how to absorb this energy into our lives. If our personality is driving, then it might be fearful of the new energies and it might push it away. It might let our personality get more in the driver's seat in the next few days rather than our soul. But I know that if we can get the personality to feel safe, it might quieten down enough so we can start hearing what the soul wants to bring through, because there's a lot of new insights coming through this equinox period, a lot of new downloads that will give you like huge aha moments and shift you forward. And it's the personality that's blocking it. So that's why I've been kind of encouraging people to do this personality and soul balancing exercise to see which is which. Because we can't simply ask the personality to disappear. We need to learn how it's operating, what it's been doing, what it's been saying, so we can start giving it a new job. Jenny's saying originally she didn't have that much, but now she's got a lot more. You're surprised, but that's the thing. The personality is so subtle in the way it speaks to you that it took, it's going to take real discernment, real practice, real dedication to not spiritually bypass these voices so that you can actually start building them into a new habit. So I don't know if anybody else has started that. Oh, Judy must have done the timelines. Excellent. So she's gone from static to ecstatic and quite unexpected. Amazing. The thing is, they're simple exercises, but the one thing I know about divine intelligence is it's very specific. When you tune into that very subtle frequency and you finally have that aha moment, that's when you know you've received it properly. So I'm forever coming up with these little exercises to try and help that happen. So I'm so excited that that worked, because I was playing with this over the weekend going, people are not getting the concept of timelines. How can I help them understand it? So that timeline shift happened back about 3 months ago. That allowed us to do this. And that's what I mean when I say about creating a blank slate, wiping everything clean, and now pretending that that new one that you've created is your current one and moving on from that perspective. And playing with that, as I said, then just noticing, because even once we get on that timeline, even once we finally stand on there, like I've taken my membership onto it, we visualized a template of our businesses on this new timeline. The personality and soul are still deciding if they want to get on this new one or stay on the old one. So even when you think you've switched to the new timeline, your personality could easily pull you back accidentally, which is why we've got the 2 jars as the extra bit now to watch, to see between now and equinox on Thursday late evening, which is sort of early Friday morning, to see what comes up between now and then. Now, I did say to people, if you wanted to put the soul ones in a different jar, that's a good idea too, but it's mainly let's see the personality talk first. Let's really get that in there. I didn't recommend people wrote it into their journals, because we want to eradicate this talk, not amplify it. And if you put it in your journal, you might find that it brings the frequency of your journal down. So this is why we were using a jar as a concept instead. So your word, so Jenny pulls the word for the weekend was nourish. And doing activities, not things that nourish you. Is that a typo there? Cool. So this is when we were talking about spiritual bypassing, you can see that there are so many pieces of the puzzle that need to be put together to make this work. And yes, there's new energy coming in on the equinox, and it's quite electrifying and it's quite expansive and it's quite exciting what's coming in. But two, we have to decide that we're willing to let go of that past and move on to that second line, onto that second timeline, and let go of the first one. And then when we've done that, then we have to check that our soul and personality are not fighting and pulling us back to the old one. And I've also used the analogy of somebody who wants to go for a car ride, and they open the door and the car's there waiting for you to get in, but you're holding onto a tree. And you're trying to reach for the car door and you can't because you're holding onto the tree and you just can't get past. These are the kind of things that stop us manifesting, stop us moving forward, stop us getting the job or the relationship we want. And we've just got to find out how many trees we've been holding on to, which is the stuff off the old timeline, and decide to let it go, because that's the amazing thing, is that the energy is so potent for letting go right now. We just need to tune into it and use it. Doing activities, not things, or activities and things that nourish you, not know. Okay, cool. And that's represented you moving out of personality and overwhelm into soul and letting go. Exactly. So I love that you guys are finding, like, once you're hearing the voice, you're starting to notice the responses that you need to soothe the personality, because that was going to be the next step we were going to try, is once we've recognized the voice and what it says, then we can start finding nurturing ways of supporting and loving the personality so that it can feel more comfortable and realize. And it's kind of like, you're not the same person. This is going to sound weird, but you're not the same person that you were when your personality learned all the things it learned to protect you. So it's a bit like, imagine your personality as your mum, still treating you like a 3-year-old. So some of your personality protecting defensive mechanisms and coping strategies have come from when you were 3. And you're not 3 anymore. And even with the grown-up name, the grown-up age, energetically, if you've been doing your spiritual work, you're more spiritually mature as well. And sometimes when we've done those kind of major changes in our lives, it's almost like we have to reintroduce ourselves back to our friends, to our family, as this new version of ourselves, so that they can now upgrade the way they treated us into a new way at the same time. And that's what we're doing basically with the personality. We're sitting down saying, hey, personality, I know you've done a fabulous job of keeping me safe, but guess what? Some of those energetic fears that we had are now gone. I've learned how to manage them. Some of the experiences that we had, I've learned better now how to avoid them, or at least how to navigate them more gracefully. That some of the types of people that hurt us in the past, I now know to avoid them. So whilst you've been doing a great job of keeping me away from life, it's now got to a point where I can't live. So let's renegotiate and decide on a better way to navigate this life hand in hand, side by side, and more from love and abundance than scarcity and fear. And that's the kind of balance that's coming up through the equinox. Now, interestingly, I know this sounds stupid, maybe people already know this, but I knew that equinox was equal day and equal night, which kind of fits this soul and personality walking side by side. But it suddenly dawned on me that because I know solstices are different, you know, the northern hemisphere, we get summer solstice and we get the winter solstice in the southern. It suddenly dawned on me then, does it mean that when we get an equinox of equal day and night, that the whole planet experiences that equal day and night at the same time? And the answer was yes. And that to me kind of really emphasized this dark light unity concept even more for this particular equinox, is that I guess that reason I understood that is because I've been working on time a bit more and imagining this from a perspective of the galaxy rather than me as this little person standing on Earth. So we can kind of play with that now if you want. Imagine you're standing on Earth now in your rooms, wherever you're at. Oh, hi, Emma. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. So imagine you're on the Earth now in your rooms, and we know we're coming up to the equinox of equal day and equal night. Now, just imagine growing yourself bigger and bigger, and you're almost now able to stand on top of Earth. And you can see now that Earth is in this perfect alignment with the sun, that the whole planet, from the equinox, from the north to the south, all are having an equal day and night. There are some variations, but overall, it's that. And us in the top of the planet, in the northern hemisphere, are just about to tip the other way for our winter cycle, and the south is going to tip up. And then, obviously, in next equinox, it tips the other way. So just imagine now you can see the planet doing this and seeing the energetics of this on a solar system, not even a galaxy level, just a solar system level, and bringing awareness up to that kind of level. And then just sensing into the energies there that are slightly bigger than ourselves, than us being sort of here on the planet, kind of being busy day with all of our unique experiences today. And just sort of get the feeling for that on a more galactic point of view. And that's what the equinox, for me, is that personality and soul. It's that heaven and earth. It's that ability to connect to your higher wisdom, but be present in your body at the same time, not having to leave and go into meditation. And hopefully, if you're having a good day, connect to your insights. It's bringing the two together so that you are walking through the supermarket, getting insights. Your creative energy is flowing. You're connected to the primordial aspect of the planet, really sensing that every cell in your body is made up of the dust and the DNA of the planet pulled into your physical being. And that one physical container holds that energy of the higher consciousness, and more of it wants to come in. And it's just waiting for that body to evolve to be able to hold the two. And then see that personality and soul as kind of like the physical going, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ready for all of that. And just see yourself kind of calming or hugging that personality and just saying, it's okay. We are ready. We are supported in new ways energetically. And it's time for us to be extraordinary and to step up into us being more in control of our lives, which means less blaming of our personality or soul, less blaming of other people, less blaming of the politics of the world, and starting to see how each of us can make our own contribution. And if you can get that personality to quieten down out of fear and start being more open to listening, then you'll get some amazing insights coming up for this next equinox. Can't get my words out, for the equinox coming up. So how did that sound to you guys? Does that all make sense? So Emma, you might want to go back. We did a little exercise with timelines earlier, so maybe you want to go back and replay that bit. So we're going to do on Thursday, which is open to other people to join, is an online class called Dancing with 5D Energy. And I've designed this class to be a combination of small micro movements in the core of the body to activate our life force energy, connect us back up to the primordial earth, but also then receive the downloads. And this particular one is going to be themed around the soul and the personality. So we do this online, as I say, it's at 8:30. Yeah, 8:30, still British summertime, I had to think then, still in British summertime, for it's about an hour and a half, and then we journal. Because what I find is when we start connecting to our bodies and making space for us to start holding that space I described on a more permanent basis, that it becomes our natural state, but it also starts giving us all these great insights and ideas for things that we might have spent months trying to pull together otherwise. So we've got that on Thursday. If anybody's interested in joining us, then just send me an email and I can let you know the details. But I have chronic fatigue, so it's not like we're going to be bouncing around a lot. There is an option to do a bit of bouncing if you wish, but it's mostly about less is more. I kind of try to teach you how to move the energy through your body and feel it rippling down so that you can really sense the energy coming in from the higher realms of the equinox and then allow it to spark you alive and feel this new balance that's coming in for the equinox itself. So it's kind of like a meditation at the same time. I should point that out as well. So I'm talking to you at the same time. All right, excellent. Thank you. Yes, Emma's going to watch it. Fantastic. Cool. And do put comments in because I do watch the comments. So let me know how that timeline exercise worked and what it did for you. So may you all have a fabulous equinox. I am thinking on Friday to go live again and maybe do a little bit of what we did on the Dancing with Energy. If anybody wanted to see, not so much the movement because it takes too much setup to get the cameras all set up for that. But I might do like maybe a small soul journey on Friday to help you guys connect with your personality and soul voices. That's what I'm thinking. Ah, Judy said, found it. Thank you. Found it in evening inspirational. Thank you. It's hard because they kind of like the building blocks have to come first, and then you can kind of put a bit more layer on. Then you have to do some building blocks and put a bit more on. But hopefully you guys, I've been watching all the other ones too, and they're all kind of starting to make more sense. And if not now, go back and listen to them again. And each time you play them, I think you'll get a slightly higher concept of what we're trying to do here. But today, hopefully, everything I've spoken about will give you a way of not spiritually bypassing the equinox energies that are coming in. Thank you, guys. See you next week. Oh, we'll see you Friday. Probably 8 o'clock on Friday. That's what I'll do. I'll go live 8 o'clock on Friday. So I'll see you then. Bye, guys.